Hello everyone, I'm Dr. Abigail and welcome to another episode of The Wellness Minute. On this episode, we will be exploring the silent killer, stress. Did you know that up to 40% of US workers report high levels of job-related stress? We also know that some of the top reasons for these reports include juggling work and life balance, job security, overall workload, and people issues. There are two effective therapies that can help combat stress that many people may not think about: yoga therapy and acupuncture. Here with me now, we have Diane Finlayson, the program director at MUIH, that's Maryland University of Integrative Health. And she's a field expert in yoga therapy. And later on, we'll have a guest who will talk to us about how acupuncture can help manage stress. Thank you for being here with us, Diane. Welcome to the Wellness Minute.
It's a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself? What's your background? How did you come to yoga therapy?
I started yoga when I was in high school, and it wasn't called yoga then. It was stretch and relax classes as part of theater. When I got to college and I was 18, they could say we were doing yoga. When I was in public school, back in the, it was considered a cult and maybe a bad religion. But when you're of age, people can tell you what's real. So they said, oh, this is yoga. And I thought, oh, this is yoga. This is wonderful, because it really did help me with my anxiety. And then as I went through life, I realized there were ways to do practical applications of the techniques of yoga to help various people come to center, become more resilient, and be with the conditions and situations they found themselves with more comfortably.
That's interesting. You know, that leads me to another question. You talked about the history and the progression of it, and it feels to me like yoga therapy or yoga, I don't know if it's therapy or practice, I have those questions for you, but that it's becoming more popular, and there are different kinds of yoga. Can you help explain to me and help us understand what are the differences?
Sure. So yoga is a very vast field, and there are what are called yoga margas, which are different paths of yoga. So there's bhakti yoga, jnana yoga, hatha yoga. Bhakti is the yoga of devotion, jnana is the yoga of wisdom, karma yoga is the yoga of selfless service. And most of what we see in health clubs and gyms and even at some hospitals is some variation of hatha yoga. And that's the yoga that is designed to create to steel the body, to make it as strong as steel so it can withstand enlightenment. That's the whole purpose. And so Bikram yoga is a type of hatha yoga. Vinyasa flow is a type of hatha yoga. Yin is a little bit different and based in hatha. So you see how most of those, Kripalu is a little more psycho-emotional in nature, and it does have a hatha yoga base.
Wow. I think the only one I'd been familiar with before was the hatha, and it makes sense if we're talking about the gyms and the clubs.
Yeah.
Thanks for explaining that. So it seems that yoga has an art and a science to it. So let's transition a little bit into the science of yoga. So everything that you described was yoga practice versus yoga therapy?
Yes. So I think the best way to understand the difference between like a yoga teacher and a yoga therapist would be that a yoga teacher is engaged in health promotion for a large group of people, giving them general ideas that are going to help them with general conditions. A yoga therapist, on the other hand, is engaging in a client-centered, individual therapeutic intervention designed for the person sitting across from them.
Interesting. Okay. So that's the science. So a specific condition, let's talk about stress.
Sure.
Tell me about the science of how yoga therapy helps to address stress.
Sure. There are two ways that yoga therapy comes at stress. we can come at it, and it works best if we use both approaches, in fact. So you can have a top-down approach or a bottom-up approach. Top-down means we're working first with the mind, and we're setting intentions, and we're focusing attention in a specific way to allow the body to take cues from the thoughts. Because, you know, as we think, so we are. If we believe that someone's out to get us, by golly, we're going to act like it's happening. If we've had a traumatic situation and we keep replaying it in our mind, our body doesn't understand that it's not actually happening. It has the same impact as if we are re-experiencing it. So if we can help people focus their attention and set an intention, it starts to change physiology. Also, when we take the bottom-up approach, what we're doing is telling the body to stand up straight, helping to work with breathing practices, doing musculoskeletal work, which I'm putting the posture a little different from, because you can do all kinds of things and have crummy posture. But having good posture allows the diaphragm to work correctly, which allows the breath to move properly, which has a strong physiological impact as well, and helps us really mitigate stress. There, in the nervous system, there's the autonomic, the sympathetic, and the parasympathetic nervous system. You've seen a baby breathe, and that little belly just goes up and down. Darling. And that
breathing.
Right? Belly breathing. That is a child with no problems. And that is a child that is enjoying a wonderful relaxation response. When you sit at your desks, how do you find yourself sitting often?
Well, my mother did a good job of making sure I always had good posture. So even when I feel myself, you know, with the weight of the world and stress, I catch it, and I've had some, I can't remember the name of it, I can't remember the name right now, but making sure that you're breathing diaphragmatically. So I try to catch it, and I know when my breath is getting a little shallow, but sometimes it slips away from me. So I'm wondering if you can share some practical tools. I like what you said, top down, so that's mind, intention. Bottom up, that's body and the muscles and the bones, our structure.
Body sending the signals to the mind. So if we have the mind setting intentions and the body sending, you know, signals back, we get that loop going.
I love it. So what are some practical tools that we can use at work when it slips away from us and we're not really engaged in being intentional, that can bring us back and reduce stress physiologically for us?
I find a couple of things are useful. One, stand up every hour or so. And even if you just stretch your arms up over your head, it makes a huge difference. There's a lady named Amy Cuddy who talks about the physiology of strength, I guess. And there are different ways that you can stand and be if you're feeling particularly stressed by at the workplace. It could be people. So there's a way of just even the Wonder Woman stance,
heard of that,
where you take up a little more room, get your hands on your waist, and if you stay in a position for 2 minutes, just 120 seconds, your physiology will start to change. And part of it is about taking up space. The other one is bringing your arms up over your head, or you can just make a kind of a big circle out in front of you and hold your arms up. This is what they do in Tai Chi and Qigong. You know, this is that standing posture where you begin practices. And this for 2 minutes can be really nice. Up overhead for 2 minutes if you're really stressed, because that's like the bear showing how big it can be. And it's an animal, a physiological animal response from the body.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, and to breathe, Make sure you're, just notice, if you all of a sudden notice you're like this at your keyboard, you're in trouble, because you're breathing in the top lobes of your lung, which signals to the mind, oh my God, the tiger is chasing me, I'm gonna die. So your stress response is gonna go up. So if you notice you're doing this and you're starting to feel funny, all you really have to do is straighten up and take a couple of breaths. Maybe roll your shoulders a little. Any kind of rolling the joints, rolling the fingers, all of that can just be yummy.
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 I feel relaxed, a lot more relaxed than I did before I walked into the studio, really, and I've had a pretty stressful week. I'm curious, how can we remember to do this quickly?
Well, there are apps. You can set your alarm clock. Write a little index card, put a sticky note on your computer screen or on your desk. There are a million ways that you can signal to yourself. And I would refresh or change it up every week or two, because it's easy. You get inured to different things, and you hear the timer go off and you go, yeah. Change the ringtone, put a different sticky note up. There are different ways to do it, but freshen the application that you use from time to time.
My goodness, you have been a wealth of information. Thank you so much for joining us today and for sharing with us some practices and how yoga therapy can help to combat stress.
A delight, thank you.
Thank you. After the break, we'll have another guest come on and talk to us about acupuncture and its ability to manage stress. We'll be right back. Life is full of choices, from what we're going to wear each day to what we're going to do over the weekend. You know what else is a choice? Your heart health. Most of the conditions that cause heart disease are actually lifestyle choices, from what we eat to how active we are to our use of alcohol or tobacco products. These are all lifestyle choices that we make that can affect our heart health. Make the right choice today and schedule an appointment with your doctor to figure out which are the right lifestyle choices for you. Life is full of choices, so why not choose your heart? Welcome back to the Wellness Minute. Before the break, we talked about yoga therapy and its benefits on stress. Now we're going to talk about acupuncture and the benefits that acupuncture has on stress. With me today, I have Jennifer Yoakum, a licensed acupuncturist practicing at the Maryland University of Integrative Health Clinic, the Natural Care Center. Welcome to the Wellness Minute, Jennifer.
Thanks.
Thank you for being with us.
I'm happy to be here.
Fantastic. Can you share a little bit about your background? What brought you to acupuncture?
Well, I was actually a behavioral neuroscientist before, so almost polar opposite of this Eastern world of medicine. But I actually had an amazing recovery from a gallbladder condition using acupuncture. And it kind of made me really think about what I was doing for a living. And so I thought long and hard. It took me quite a while, but I decided that acupuncture was what I needed to do. And I shifted careers and have not looked back.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's an amazing personal story that transitioned to a career change. Now, I have to admit, even though I am in the integrative world and I've worked side by side with a lot of acupuncturists, I've probably only had a couple of treatments myself. So for people who don't really understand what is acupuncture, can you share? How does it work?
Yeah, so acupuncture is a system of medicine that's about 2,000 years old, and so we have quite a bit of research behind us, if you will, from the actual practical experience. Yeah, so it works using energy meridians. They're called these pathways through the body, and we have about 365 acupuncture points, and we take small filiform needles. They're very tiny, about 1 to 2 hairs width, and we insert them into some of these points on the body, and it causes a reaction that brings some stress relief, brings some calming energy and flow to the whole system. So when there is something that is stuck energetically in one of these points or these areas, the acupuncture needles are inserted and it allows it to flow more fully.
So let me understand. I do remember meridians, and this is perhaps why I didn't go into acupuncture, because it was totally different from what I was studying in medicine.
Yeah.
So we have meridians, or these channels, this flow of energy in the body. But then there are 365 meridians or points?
There are 365 points. There are actually 14 meridians. So there are 12 meridians that follow different organs. So there's a heart meridian and a pericardium meridian rather, a lung meridian, and so forth. And then there are two energy pathways that run up the front, one up the front and one up the back of the body. And those deal more with the overall kind of yin energy, so this feminine, receptive sort of energy, and the yang energy of the body, which is more the masculine, the uprightness. So the uprightness is along the spine, as you could possibly imagine, and the yin and the female is more receptive. It's about kind of coming inward. So all of these pathways connect in one big circuit throughout the body. And the points are just ways that we access the energy of those different organs, those systems, and again, create flow. When somebody has an issue, like they have an injury or any kind of physical ailment, it's usually because there's something that's blocked in one of these pathways, and it may not deal with the actual organ. So if you have a kidney disease, it doesn't mean that there's something wrong in the kidney meridian. It could. But we look at the whole body and the whole system, body, mind, and spirit, and talk to the people and figure out what's going on with all of the systems, so we see where the energy might be most likely to be stuck.
Okay.
And we treat there.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that. So then tell me how these meridians and these points within acupuncture, how can that help with stress?
Yeah, so one of the Western ways that it's thought that acupuncture works is a neurohormonal sort of way. So taking the needles, placing them into one of those points can touch those little nerve endings, which sends a signal to the brain, and that releases particular hormones, many of which, like the endorphins, are great for helping you to relieve that stress and get, a much calmer feeling overall. And so the actual treatment itself can help relieve stress, and that is one of the things that we first see shift when people come in for acupuncture treatment.
Do you know, how does acupuncture know that the person is stressed? How do you use acupuncture to know that? Or do you do the treatment and it has this, I guess, unintentional side effect on stress? Yeah,
I know what you mean. Almost everybody in the about a dozen years that I've been treating, maybe more like 10 years or so, almost everybody has that effect of feeling less stressed, feeling more relaxed when they're laying on the treatment table with the needles in. So it's one of the first things to shift for almost everybody. Americans, a lot of us are really stressed, or we're doing too much. We're not really in a state of balance. And so this way, again, maybe it's neurohormonal, maybe it's something else, some other way that the acupuncture needles are working, but that's something that most of us respond to pretty quickly. So it's not about necessarily the needles knowing that you're stressed. I mean, we choose the points based on the symptoms that people are telling us about, but it is, again, kind of a side effect, a positive side effect for most people, that they do have this stress relief from the needles.
Okay, awesome. So what tips would you have for someone who is interested in exploring acupuncture for stress management?
I mean, do it.
Do it.
Really,
do it.
Just do it.
Just do it.
I mean, there's really a lot of great ways that you can go out and experience acupuncture. If you're a little nervous about trying it, like a full-on body acupuncture treatment, there's actually auricular treatments, and those are several points in the ears on each side that are placed in.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a kind of a little foray into it for a lot of people. And at MUIH, we actually have some community accessible auricular treatments. So I would recommend for people to come on in to MUIH and try it out. And then it's like maybe a 15-minute treatment. So it's not quite as much to commit to if somebody's concerned about committing. The other is to certainly find somebody who uses insurance. So if you're, again, like you're concerned about paying, that's another way to have easier access. But, even people that are scared of the needles, I think, these are so tiny, and I just tell people to close their eyes, and they say, I didn't even know it was in, you know, so it's nothing to be scared of. I say, just go ahead and try it, for sure.
So just a little bit deeper in that, what can we expect from that first treatment? Is it immediate needles? Is there more of an assessment? I'm curious about, I remember pulses, tongue, and other things.
Yeah, so we have several diagnostic exams and things that we use. So in the first treatment, it's usually about an hour and a half that people come in, and we go over their full medical history, their social history. We talk to them about all aspects of their life to, again, get an idea of what's going on with them, because it may not seem like some of these things are related, but in Chinese medicine they are. So somebody who's not sleeping well, somebody who has joint pain, and somebody who has tinnitus, for example. That may sound like those are really kind of far off symptoms from one another to the common person, but you know, those are actually all related to the kidney meridian in acupuncture. So to me, it's often amusing to hear people check off the different symptoms that they have, and I say, oh, you know, I know that this sounds crazy, but these are all related. And so it's, so again, I'm kind of getting an idea in an intake of what's going on with the person. And then I do an abdominal exam, so that's taking 3 fingers and just kind of palpating different areas of the abdomen. We also palpate different acupuncture points. We look at the tongue. We look at the eyes. We take pulses on each side, which again is not a Western kind of way of taking pulses, but we're looking specifically, there's different points and positions on the wrist that correspond to those energy meridians or pathways. So we're tapping into each of those by touching each side of the wrist. And so then after a bit of time where we're talking to the person, it's probably about 45 minutes with the talking and the exams, then we go ahead and give them a needle treatment. So they do get a needle treatment the first time for most people, and the needles stay in for maybe 15 or 20 minutes, and then the practitioner comes back, reassesses whether or not the needles can come in or go ahead, take out rather, or stay in. And then usually we finish up and check with the person and let them know about, you know, what to expect in the next day or 2.
Okay. Great. My next question was, and I think you've kind of answered a bit, but if there's anything else you would add, is as a practitioner, what kind of treatment would you recommend for someone who has stress? Is it the same, or would they be individualized?
I mean, so really the way that I treat patients, it is more of a holistic system. So most people, when they're coming in the first 2 to 4 times, they're coming in and really just getting that energy moving in a better way through some treatments that we've learned at MUIH. But that being said, if they still have gone through those first few treatments and they're feeling stressed, there are a couple of points that you can use that are really great for stress. One that I've found over the last few years that's been super beneficial for my patients is called yin tang, and it's right between the eyebrows, kind of in that third eye place that some people refer to. But that space right there is great for people, especially if they have the type of stress where they're just worrying all the time. So it's the repetitive thinking, and I can't get out of my head, and I can't stop this tape from going. That point, you stick it in and let it sit for 15 or 20 minutes, and by the end of it, they feel a little bit like, you know, more relaxed, less stressed, and they say, okay, all right, I can deal with what I've got going on. So yeah, it is kind of particular, but that's a great one. The auricular treatment is, again, known to help with stress relief. And then, you know, beyond that, there's certainly some other points that are known to kind of help create a calm type energy for people.
Wow.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks for explaining that. You've been awesome. I've learned so much, even though I thought I knew a bit about acupuncture.
Yeah.
Clearly not at all. Thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Jennifer. Well, you've heard it from our 2 guests today. 2 forms of therapy, yoga therapy and acupuncture, that can help us combat stress in our daily lives, especially work-related stress. Join us next month when we talk about mental health awareness. I'm Dr. Abigail, and I'll see you next time on another episode of The Wellness Minute.